Hi, today I want to talk about the question that I get most often when working with ancestral energies. If you don't know me, I'm Vika Titan, and I help people reconnect with the strength of their lineage so they get to step into full, rich, fulfilling, authentic life that they've been dreaming of. So let's go back to the question. Many of you work with a variety of modalities. Maybe it's family constellations, maybe it's divine energies, maybe it's shadow work. In whatever modality you work, usually there is the process through which you go through with the guide, with the teacher, with the facilitator. And then there's time when you go home and you need to integrate that experience. And that's where challenges arise because it is usually pretty clear in the way those energies moves during the family constellation, let's say. What happens and how it impacts the system becomes very visible. It is revealed. The field is held with compassion. But when you go home or when you return into your daily life, sometimes the question is, it doesn't really match. And I feel like I'm doing my best to stay in compassion. And yet my partner is reacting the way that triggers me. Or my relationship with my mom didn't go into a place of that loving communication that I saw in the field. So there's the questions comes, why doesn't it match? And what can I do to bring that spiritual experience into my day to day? So I would like to share a few things, and it's especially relevant right now when we're going collectively through this transition. And we see a lot of crumbling around us. We see a lot of fear around us. There's a lot of chaos. There's also a lot of peace. It's just less visible. So how can you be the one who stays in peace? Doesn't mean non-active. Just want to point that out. The peace inside doesn't mean I'm not in action. It doesn't mean I'm staying quiet, not doing anything, just kind of staying in the bathtub, which is part of that, but it's not all that, right? Peace also means I make decisions from the place of the highest good. The highest good for all, the highest good for me is the highest good for all, rather than reaction or avoiding pain, right? There are two ways to make decisions. We either follow the bliss, like Joseph Campbell said, or we avoid the pain. And most of us are trained to avoid the pain. And the reason for that is we have these protective guardians whose main job is not to let us repeat the situations in which we got traumatized. So when we see that spiritual movement, the soul movement that opens up and say, if I take this into my heart, I no longer need the protector. I reassign the protector. Rather than connecting to my family line through the same suffering that they experienced. For example, if my dad was an alcoholic, right? I labeled him as an alcoholic and he has troubles with alcohol, then I may be addicted to technology, right? It seems I may be more productive, more functioning, or I may be addicted to my work, right? Or maybe addicted to chase. I may be addicted to never stopping, never stop moving. Like I have to be efficient. I have to be successful. I have to make money. I have to make sure that I provide for myself. It's the same energy of addiction. It's just different expression of it. But in the essence of it, so let's say you went into a constellation and it showed you that. It showed you that you belong to your family by repeating the same pattern. So you bow down and you released it back to the family lineage to be released back to the source. And so you turn it, you transmuted it through your heart, or a representative transmuted for you. And then you'll go into life and things, okay, so now I'm not addicted to technology anymore. That's not exactly how it works. It's not exactly the magical pill. What this does this work that you do, it brings you back to a place of choice. One of the foundational orders: do not allow the universal forces to violate your free will. As you are brought into life, you're gifted this life to be the creator. And therefore, you have a choice, and you will always have a choice. And you can choose to repeat the same pattern. Like you don't have, it's like the chemical part of your addiction got released, but your psychological habit of, let's say, taking on the phone and scrolling through social media is still there. So you can still choose to scroll through the social media. So here's how you can empower yourself to make a different choice. One of the biggest things is empowering your environment. Because your environment is what creates and supports your habits, right? So if you always have your phone by your side when you wake up, and the first thing that you do is take your phone and look at the news, look at the social media, look at the email, that's how your environment's set up. It's just kind of the moving through that. You release that psychological addiction, you can pause and say, Dad, I love you. Dad, thank you for giving me life. Thank you for giving me strength. And you will feel how the pressure drops. Like it immediately drops that sensation of, I'm in this mode of do. And your body will breathe itself. It will take an inhale and will allow the exhale. It will calm down the nervous system. Just this one phrase. And would be also supportive to not have your phone in your bedroom, right? So it would take you physically several steps to get to that phone. So you interrupt this pattern, this myocylin that you have developed around your nervous connections. It's no longer there. Like it's the chemical part is no longer there, but you create it. And you do it one morning, second morning, third morning, you're establishing it again, right? So you're creating this path that your brain, it's like your car driving. You used to drive to work every day, and now you need to go to a different location, but the car still drives to work. Like it's mindless action, right? It's the habitual muscle memory that goes in. And there's always a choice of, I'll stay mindful in it. And if I'm staying mindful, I'll just follow direction because now I'm the one in charge of this conscious movement. My movement is conscious. But I also can take a completely different route, or once I take a different car, once I give that settings, like, no, I'm going to follow the most beautiful street rather than the fastest one, right? Now I'm the one in charge of that experience. So you can do the same in your home environment. You can rearrange your furniture in the way that feels or creates more refreshing flow. You can bring in your connection with flowers, for example, plants in the house, right? That will allow you to just look at it differently. You can even rearrange your toothbrush from one place to another, from your left side to the right side, or vice versa. Bring in the element of new into your environment. The second thing is scan your environment for things that drain your energy. And rather than adding something new, you may just need to remove something that takes away from your experience. Like you would like to go to the gym in the morning, but when you take your first cup of coffee, the next thing you want to do, you want to check your email. So now you're in productive mode, you don't interrupt the flow of your work. So you postpone your gym. And when you go to gym, you're still kind of on this auto run, and you're no longer like doing what your body wants to do. You're doing like 10 minutes run, you're doing 5 minutes exercise, and you do this. I think, what if you shift? What if instead of giving your body a specific program to follow, you just go sit, right, and pause, and like, what part of my body wants to be expressed. And you start from this ground zero, from the point of no movement. Right? In contact improv, they always say the true improv comes from the 0 point, from the point of no movement. So you will stop in the point of no movement and you just connect to your environment. You just breathe into it and you witness, you spread, you expand your presence into that environment and notice what's out there, what's alive in me right now. And it will take a little bit more time, but it will give you breath into your body. And you can, after that, continue with the routine, right? It's like, okay, now that I breathe my presence in this, from this place of presence, I'll go ahead and set up these 5 exercises that I'm going to circle through and do my effective routine, the optimal routine that I need. But first, pause. First, the no movement. And from that, maybe you'll want to curve a little instead of doing the straight lines. Maybe you want to shift the sequence. Maybe you want to exchange it. Maybe you want to connect to the person next to you. Maybe you'll engage in a communication and create like this serotonin inflow into your blood that makes you feel more belonging, right? Creates that feeling. So that's number 2 part. Another practice that I would highly recommend doing is when you experience triggered reaction, especially when you experience triggered reaction, especially when you notice yourself going into the thoughts that are not encouraging, that are not empowering for you. A very powerful practice is saying yes to this experience. For example, I'm trying to do this, but I feel like I don't have the power. I feel like I'm too tired for this. I feel like I'm too tired to go to dance. I want to, but I'm not sure. And also there's part of me that goes, what if there's going to be nobody there to interact with me? And what if the music is not going to be perfect? And what if people judge me? It's all of those things. So one of the practices we can do, and you can call it practice, and the word practice feels like you have to do the work, and that, but actually you're gaining energy when you do that. You're not exhausting yourself. So try to name every experience you're going through and embrace it. How it may sound. For example, part of me is feeling anxious to go into this dancing experience. And I'm giving it a place. A part of me is excited to go. And I'm giving it a place too. A part of me is afraid that I'll be judged. And I'm giving that a place. Part of me doesn't really want to leave the house. And I'm giving it a place too. A part of me feels that if I don't go, I'll regret. And I'm giving that a place. A part of me is simply scared. And I'm giving it a place too. Notice how every name that you give to your emotion and you take that in, right? I'm not resisting. And you can say, part of me is resisting. A part of me is numb. A part of me is fearing the consequences. And part of me doesn't really want that. And as you do, you give it a place, you take it into your heart. What are you doing with it? You're expanding yourself. Like, I'm all of those things. Part that's scared and the part that I'm excited. I'm experiencing that at the same time. And I'm not denying or rejecting my resistance. I'm taken into my heart. And maybe it will take 5 minutes, but it will give you this feeling of I am whole, of wholeness. I'm completing, I'm not rejecting anything. It will soften you into your existence. And from that place of softened existence, you can make the decision. And notice that we are not forcing a decision. We are not saying, I have to go, but I'm just scared. Like, I'm going to go, I'm going to go. I'll just need some time to prepare for it. The important part here is to detach from the outcome. Maybe the right thing for me right now is to choose rest. Truly, this is what my body wants. Maybe before that experience, I went through something deep and I need to integrate it into my system. But I don't know that until I take a pause. So as I'm doing this experience, I'm going through this practice, I'm not attached to, I'm preparing myself for this specific outcome. What I'm doing is I'm giving space for the body to speak and I'm listening. I'm gifting my presence. The biggest present I can give to life is my presence. And out of that presence, out of that safety of being, and because your body needs to feel it is safe to speak, you will listen. Only ground one is safety, then creative energy. The creative energy, the orgasm, right? Like creative energy is this sexual energy, and it's not always sexual expression, but the essence of sexual and creative energy is very similar. So this orgasmic energy doesn't come until you feel safe to express it. You may act and express yourself very differently when you feel safe and when you feel triggered, when you're on hiding. And if you are curious, we have many workshops. I posted many workshops that help you get out of the hiding. We did this whole 5-day sequence, very, very powerful experience, permission to be seen, that helps you step out of the hiding. That's phase one. That's part one. That's the foundation. You cannot go any further until you feel safe to be seen. And then there is the next thing, when you feel safe to be experienced and to experience. And that from that space, the creation becomes the creation rather than hiding. We're no longer making decisions to avoid the pain. We start making decisions to follow the flow. And many people come into this work saying, I want to experience more flow. I want to be in the flow. I want to live out of the place of trust when I am safe to express myself rather than I feel stuck. I feel stuck. It's almost, I can't explain it, but there's stuckness happening in me. It's like there are blocks, and then within this cage, and I'm moving, and I know there's more, but I just can't. And it's often expressed in our relationship with money. Like we take when we don't want to give, for example, or we block ourselves from receiving. No, I have to do this on my own. I have to be independent, like this over independence kind of thing. That we are not allowing ourselves to lean into others because they are reliable. Like for leaders, for people who own businesses, it's difficult to delegate tasks. It's really difficult to hire other people for assistance because it's this thing. If I don't control it myself, if I don't do it myself, then it's going to be done wrong. And that doesn't feel like flow. It feels like I'm grabbing really hard and I can't let go. And for some of us, it's relationships. For some of us, it's the job that we don't no longer value, that doesn't satisfy us anymore, but we just keep grabbing it because if I let go, I will fall so hard. I will lose everything. And it feels almost like death. And I will lose it. And I absolutely cannot do that. I cannot afford. Like the most logical thing. I cannot afford having that or doing that. When in reality, when we soften into this experience, we feel like we're uplifted by life, we're uplifted by the world. And it's not that we no longer receive money or spend money. It's more of I'm connecting with the abundance of the world. So we get into this life is abundant. There is life flowing through everything. I'm just remembering that I am part of that network. And I have always been connected. I just trained myself to forget it. And I got trained by others to forget it. Because that was the evolutionary path that humanity chose for some time. And we are now transitioning into remembering. When we are transitioning into, oh, there's this ancestral network behind me. That life came to me through those souls behind me. And they still exist, and they still send me energy, and they still support me. And they don't need me to stay small. They don't need me to reject my happiness. They don't need me to stay connected to them through suffering, through repeating the same dynamic in my relationship, through choosing unhappiness, through choosing smallness, through choosing limitations. They don't need me to do that. In fact, it makes them happy when I step into my greatness. It brings harmony to the whole system. But I have to make that choice when I return and honor their greatness for their choices. And that may be very difficult, right? Because their choices might have been be killed in war. And it's really difficult to understand how that can be someone's choice. It's much easier for me to perceive them as the victims of the war, right? And the collective is telling me those are the victims. And as long as they're a victim, there's a perpetrator. Like, as long as they're abused one, there's an abuser. And as long as I'm aligning with one or another, I'm in the dynamic. I'm aligning with the victim. I may choose two strategies to work with it. I may choose to revenge, or I may choose to stay small. But either one is I'm part of the dynamic. And we don't often talk about the third choice, which is I choose to step out. I choose to leave what happened in the past behind us. I choose to complete that. And my choice of completing that cycle of suffering, that cycle of victim perpetrator dynamic is enough. It's enough. I don't have to change the past. I can just embrace that the past happened. And coming back to this practice that I mentioned earlier, I say yes. I embrace. I honor your choices, the greatness of your destiny. Please bless me to choose differently. Freedom, expansion. From that point, that is how we integrate that movement into reality. So, optimizing, empowering our environment, making it really easy to make the choice we want to make. You don't want to overeat, maybe don't have any food in the house. You don't want to get triggered, maybe take a soul bath, schedule the playtime, dedicate more time to walking in nature. And there's more and more practices, and they're very unique, authentic to you. Your specific way may be connecting to water and swimming. Your specific way may be dancing or climbing the trees. Your specific way may be communicating with animals or just interacting with animals. Whatever it is, maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's walking barefoot on the street. Maybe it's talking to a homeless guy next door. Whatever it is, embrace it. From the point of, this nourishes me. And what drains you, limit it. try to minimize it out of your life. That conversation you have with a friend who always complains to you, maybe don't. Maybe just don't put yourself into that position. But before, ask, why? What are you getting out of it? Why are you in that conversation to begin with? And there's a point of giving up your superiority with it. And that's a different conversation, right? Because why, if we just could easily do those things, we would already done it and we all be happy. But there are tricks that keep us stuck in that. And that's why we go into deep work. That's why I invite you to do these workshops that you'll see in comments. We'll go in and be in the field, because being in a held, guided field with compassion, with full permission to this loving energy, it what rewires us. Everything we discussed today is how you integrate that new wiring into your physical environment. But without the deep rewiring, you're just kind of using your force, using your willpower to do that. But you cannot willpower yourself without opening the heart. And we open the heart through connection to others. And we do it only when we feel safe. So those spaces, those workshops, those programs that I invite you to, those are the safe spaces. When you are held so tightly and with so much compassion that you can open up and invite the emotions and memories that you might have been hiding from yourself for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But now in this space of, I am loved, I am connected, I am grounded, you get a chance to release it. You get a chance, your full rewiring of your system. It's like this energetic surgery. The ancestral alchemy needs true action. And when that is done, you go back to this video and you integrate it into your environment. You bring in the practices. You say yes to experience. You optimize your environment. And you become the conscious creator that creates to follow the bliss, not to avoid the pain. I hope this video serves you. I would love to hear in the comments the responses. What is your impression of it, and how else I can provide some answers or give some clarification of what else you would like to hear in this alchemical transmissions. Thank you so much for being with me until the end. I see you. I love you. See you soon. Bye.